Rick Savage goes to me, I got this thing, goes. And I just went, out of touch, out of reach, yeah. And we demoed it, and I said, I got this other section that goes, gotta know tonight.
Your Uncle Joe's Garage, presented by MAV TV Motorsports Network.
Hey, welcome to your Uncle Joe's Garage. Phil Collen is with us from Def Leppard today.
How
Greetings.
you doing?
You know, the garage here is about the same size as that one that you and I were doing the interview with up in North Hollywood that was full of guitars.
Absolutely, it is,
I wonder if Seal ever got his guitars back from that.
Right. Wow.
Wow.
Huh.
That's a blast from the past. The other thing, I got to compliment you on your shoes.
Oh, thank you.
Normally I'm the loudest one here, and this is just outstanding.
Cheers.
That's it. Thank you for showing up. Okay. Hey, 30th anniversary of the Hysteria album.
Crazy, right?
Intense.
Yeah.
Insane. It is. You spent how many years? 4 or 5 years recording that?
Was 3 years, and it was kind of like 4 or 5 between albums. You know, we kind of finished the Pyromania tour at the end of '83. Actually, we didn't. We done a little bit in '84, and then went straight to Dublin to start writing the songs. And then from then on, it didn't come out to '87.
So you lost Mutt, your producer, Mutt Lange.
For a little while.
For a little while.
Yeah.
He came back, and I think it said he spent about 2 years.
Yeah, I think it was more like a year. I think initially what happened, we wrote the songs with him. He had the whole concept, the idea for the album, what it was going to sound like and everything. And he said, but I've got to do this Cars album. So he had a commitment. So we kind of struggled there. We got a few other people in, and it didn't work out. Then Mutt finished the Cars album while we're still struggling away. And it kind of fairly smooth from that point on.
The first thing we do inside the garage is quiz you on your first car.
Okay, great.
You know, no matter how wonderful it would have been, what was your first car?
It was great. It was a Ford Escort van that had about 300,000 miles on it. It was my dad was a truck driver, and the company he worked at, they would get rid of these old cars that had been around the block. And initially it was for my mum to learn to drive, and you know, I turned 17. So I kind of commandeered it, and it was a van, so I could put all my gear
put all the
in
equipment
the
in
back.
it, yeah.
Yeah, well, it was a little van, but you know, we slept in it, drove all over the place. It was like the center of the universe type thing.
That's the best story from anyone from a band has come up with. 'Cause
Really?
generally, whatever you were in the first place, well, there's no room for equipment because there's too many women in the car
Right,
or whatever.
but they'd have to squeeze in as well.
Yes, well, there you go.
So, yeah.
The 30th anniversary Hysteria packaging, you've got like 10,000 different tracks on this, live and everything, all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
Did they consult with you before they put the whole thing together?
Yeah, and Joe Elliott was great with this because he's the band archivist. He actually collects stuff anyway. So, you know, he goes, what about this? I've got this in, like, he'll show up and go, I've got this version of you singing something, like, I've never sung that before. He said, yes, you doing a vocal or a solo. He even went up to David Bowie. He said, I've got a version of you doing, I forget what song, Prettiest Star. So and Bowie goes, really? Let me have that. And so he did. So Joe, these things land in his lap. So he was archiving like crazy. And when this whole project came up, you know, he kind of took it under his wing and would say, you know, I've got this would be great. Got this live version from so-and-so. So yeah, he really worked a lot on that.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing of all of Hysteria, now Pyromania did pretty well.
Yes.
Commercially, you sold a lot of copies, sold a lot of tickets, did a lot of stuff. Come home, let's do another album right away. And it took, as you said, 3 or 4 years before it came out. Stuff going on, but Hysteria, the quality of the work, the quality of the recording, the sound that you guys came up with, and the diversity of songwriting and stuff, that just quite amazing. Were you aware of it as you were doing it, or you were because there was no Pro Tools, you had to do all this stuff in the old analog manner.
And you know, Mike Shipley, Nigel Green, and Mutt, they're, you know, black magic. You know, they were pulling stuff that didn't exist. You know, like these AMS machines, which were delay units. What you'd normally do, you know, on a dance record or with Pro Tools or Logic or something, he was doing manually. And they would transfer them from these are samplers, Fairlight to Synclavier, and it really got involved. And they done just amazing stuff. So when we were doing it, we knew it was something different. But again, you know, Mutt Lange had said, look, we can't do the standard. If we want it to be ordinary, let's just carry on doing what we're doing. But if we want to make it really special, we got to work a lot harder on it. So we did.
You already were a very tight unit. Def Leppard's always been very family-oriented, not necessarily in behavior, but
Yeah.
so I've heard. But Rick Allen lost his arm as this was under production. At that point in time, was there any talk of scrapping the album or scrapping the project?
No, we always do the drums last. If you know, we always make a point of doing that. We've done it since. I just produced the Tesla album, the new Tesla album.
Yeah.
Done the drums last on that. Delta Deep, you know, my other band, we do the drums last on that. It's something we do so you can actually change the arrangement of the song or whatever, and you're not stuck with this kind of rigid drum thing.
That's interesting.
So for Rick, it was great because we had, in 3 years basically, for him to kind of figure out, you know, what he was going to do and how he was going to play and all that stuff. So it worked out really well.
Let me ask you about a couple songs from Hysteria. 30th anniversary, the compilation is available now, wherever they sell music. The song Love Bites, the most beautiful song you guys have ever recorded. I don't know, is there guitar in it? And you hadn't even played it live when
Right.
it hit #1.
Yeah.
Now that's,
Well, we'd never even played the song all the way through, let alone anything else. You know, it was like a real studio production thing. You know? Me and Steve Clark had roughly we'd done some demo guitars on it that ended up being the master. We kind of just played through it. But then we added all this stuff, and it was a Mutt Lange song. He actually, is this guitar in tune? He
if
actually,
not, we can tune it.
kind of, he came in, and it was like a country song, because he sounds like Don Henley, his voice and everything, so he came in with this. Yes, a little bit out, but anyway, he came in with that, and it went from that to what it is there, you know, and the vocals. Mutt's always the best singer in the room, a lot of those vocals are him, on the backing vocals on that song. So, you know, he sings on everything. AC/DC, you hear him, Bryan Adams, Shania Twain, you hear his voice in there. So anyway, we started building this thing, and it kind of was great, you know, it was awesome. And then it went to #1, and we were out on tour, and we had to take 2 days off to learn, because we'd added all these major guitar parts, and singing them and playing them at the same time was the problem.
Yeah.
You know, you'd be going da, and then it's like, you know, that kind of thing. So we took 2 days off and kind of struggled through this song and finally got it then. We nail it every night now, it's great.
That's one of the things about Def Leppard, singing. The singing is there, and it's everybody singing, and everything is nailed directly like that. Live show is just stunning for that very reason.
Thank
and
you.
that's something you've been working on a long time.
And still work on it. We actually really put pride in that. You know, we work really hard. And over the years, the chemistry of just singing together for 30-something years, something magical happens. Like, seriously, I'll be on stage, and it actually sounds like I'm listening to a processed, produced vocal, album or something, and it's just us singing live. So something really magical happens along the way, you know. And I was fortunate enough to hang out with Phil Everly a few times actually, I would grill him. I'd go, so, you know, you and your brother, you know, that. He said, we just naturally kind of got into this thing, and it almost sounded like the same voice, and it would like phase. And I do that with Joe every night, you know, we sing, and it almost sounds like it's phasing because it's so tight. So, we kind of try to attempt that.
Talking about the Hysteria album here too, Pour Some Sugar on Me. That was actually Joe the riff. Supposedly it was Joe
Not the
goofing
riff.
around in the hallway.
He was just going, pour some sugar, and like in the corner, and Mutt goes, "What's that?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know." And like 10 days later, it was a song.
That's pretty unusual for you guys to record something in that short a period of time, isn't it?
We'd got the hang of it though. You know, we'd spent 3 years, like the song "Animal." You know, literally took 3 years before it was finished. You know, we had the original song, and it was kind of cool. Joe done a lead vocal, and then Mutt said, "This vocal's great, but I don't like the backing track," so we scrapped it and re-recorded. We kept the lead vocal, so just the right feel, you know.
Was there any time you wanted to just smack Mutt around a little bit?
No, because it's so inspiring working with him. Like the great thing is, like you go, well, oh, we've already done this, and he'd go, yeah, but try this, and it would always be something spectacular. So you'd go, yeah. So
the album name Hysteria and the song Hysteria, great song by the way.
Thank
we
you.
play it here all the time. Is there a story behind that?
yeah, we were in Dublin, and Rick Savage goes to me, I got this thing, goes, And I just went, out of touch, out of reach, yeah. And we demoed it, and I said, I got this other section that goes, gotta know tonight. And we just kind of started doing this thing, and it was, by the end of the day, it was kind of almost a song. From that point, you know, Joe, Mutt, and Steve heard it, and Mutt goes, well, we need another section, and we need a chorus, and that's the great pre-chorus, and before you know it, it kind of turned into this other thing, and it was it turned into Hysteria.
This was the last album you recorded with Steve Clark,
Yeah.
who was your good friend. When he passed away, did you consider quitting?
I did, yeah. I was like, you know, the gang, we'd done so much, especially on this album, you know, on the Hysteria album, and it was, yeah, I wasn't that thrilled about carrying on without the gang, you know, because we'd had that thing. And we wrote all these songs for the next album, Adrenalize, with Steve,
Yeah.
a lot of them, and Joe's like, well, we owe it to Steve to finish these off, so I was like, okay, so I got talked off the ledge there. You know, Steve was my best friend, and we were drinking buddies, and then I stopped, he didn't, and it didn't end well for him, you know. Yeah. So, yeah, I like I said, Joe talked me off the ledge, and we continued on, and before you know it, that album went to #1, and we're off on tour again.
They just recently had Concert West and East out here with the Eagles and Steely Dan and Fleetwood Mac and Journey and others. And Desert Trip was another big compilation here, McCartney and Roger Waters and The Who and Neil Young. When it comes around to you guys headlining one of these things, who would you see as a band you'd want?
Well, all of those lineups sound great. It's like, wow. It's like, come on. I think they'd probably get genre specific. We're just out on tour with Poison and Tesla.
Yeah.
And as much as we love playing with all these other bands, there was something about these three bands were on MTV at the same time. We all broke at the same time.
I hadn't thought about that.
And it was really interesting, the audience's reaction to the fact that these three bands were from the same era, if you like. And it felt special. It felt a little different. And you know, we all get on great. We loved all the bands. Obviously, I was still recording some of the Tesla stuff. It'd be like, oh, we need an acoustic guitar on this track. We'd finish the album, it'd be out next year, and it's awesome. But we'd still run into rooms like this, record a guitar, do a little vocal or something. And but there was a camaraderie thing that was different about the whole thing. So I think something like that would work a treat. A lot of these bands from the same era.
So not next year, but probably the one after.
Yeah, I think next year's probably gonna. Well, who knows?
Who knows?
Yes.
Who knows? Is there anybody you'd like to play with that you haven't so far?
Joe Satriani was pretty cool. I mean, I got to play with Jeff Beck last year, which was just great, and hang out with Jimmy Page, which was awesome. And he would say, "Oh, you playing the thing on Beck's Blue?" I said, "That's perfect. That's exactly how I wrote." So, you know, he was so complimentary and just the loveliest guy in the world. And Jeff was just a monster. You know, he's been one of my favourite players. So to get up there and play. I initially, he wanted to do Superstition, the Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
The Stevie Wonder wrote that for Jeff initially. Yes. So I got up and sung it, and then he said, well, you got to stay up and do Beck's Bolero. And I said, I only know the lead line. He said, well, then just come in on the heavy bit. So it was just so you can't really turn that down. So that was cool.
30th anniversary of the Hysteria album, and this is just one of the various. Look at those guys right there.
Look at those young studs. Oh my God.
It's available everywhere right now. I strongly suggest it, not only just for the original album, which sounds fantastic, but all the other stuff, including live material on here, is great. Hysteria is the name of it. Phil Collen, the lead guitarist from Def Leppard. Thank you so much again.
Absolute pleasure, always. Cheers.
Hey, here we are inside your Uncle Joe's garage, and I know you haven't been inside the garage yet, but I got some great news for you. We've created a mobile version of the Uncle Joe's garage thanks to our friends at Mike Thompson RV Superstores. Like they say, don't miss a moment. And don't miss the mobile Uncle Joe's garage when it comes to a location near you. I'll be looking for you.